No, we are now continuing with the various activities that require specific managerial attention within the airport terminal. So today we are going to address a few things that are sort of categorized as special services. And actually, if you have seen the syllabus, these have been specifically mentioned along with, of course, whatever we have discussed so far. So that is the treatment or the services provided for minors specifically, that is unaccompanied minors and passengers with disabilities, and also VVIPs and VIPs. So all these are related to the functions, day-to-day functions of the airport, and many of these require direct supervision. Direct supervision from the managerial level. For example, VVIP travel, movement, etc., has to be coordinated at the senior management level within the operations department of the airport. So we will look at the implications of these and what are the specific guidelines, processes, and procedures which are listed for each of these. First, probably the most important and from the safety and security perspective, the most critical aspect, the attention that needs to be provided to the category of passengers who are termed as unaccompanied minors. Traveling of children, this is the usual recognized notation or the nomenclature. Traveling of children between the age of 5 and 12 years. That is 5 and 12, between 5 and 12 is accepted only when parent or guardian escorts the child at the airport of departure and at the airport of arrival. Now, please note here that uh, quite often children may have to travel alone, and it can be because of various reasons. The parents or the guardians are not able to move with them, and actually nowadays, actually, I guess it is even more such situations because of the COVID closure. The kids may have vacations, parents may not have. Kids may have online classes which can be attended from any part of the world, and they would prefer to be with relatives like grandparents, etc., and then or visits related to vacations and stuff like that. So there will be quite a large number of occasions where children may have to travel alone, and that applies to both domestic flights as well as international flights. So uh, so it's an area where a specific attention is required. And one of the laid out rules is that a child uh, of this age group will not be allowed to board the flight or allowed to do the check-in process unless he or she is accompanied by a parent or a person who hands over responsibly to an airport staff at the boarding airport. And similarly, there are people who will collect the child at the receiving station. So the which basically means that you just cannot leave the child alone all through the airport and get it go through all the formalities, etc., for obvious reasons. Now, this means that an unaccompanied minor has to be handed over, and there is a form which is specifically intended for this purpose. That is an unaccompanied minor form, in which all the details regarding the child, then the address of the parent, the guardian who is handing over, or the details of the person who is individually present inside the airport to hand over the child should be there. and also details of the person who is going to collect the child at the receiving station. So, or at the destination. So all these have to be filled in and with appropriate, and they also have to be properly documented within the airport records before the child is handed over. So it's a responsibility of the staff, the assigned staff within the airport, to collect the child with all these information, and then hand him or her over to the crew of the aircraft. So this is between 5 and 12, and the same actually in many of the uh, airports, the same thing applies to 12 and 16 years. So this 12 to 16, there can be variations actually. Sometimes depending on the local rules and regulations. But then they are also, these 12 and 16 can also be accepted as unaccompanied minors. And there are certain requirements which are, some of which are common actually. For example, while checking in, the movement of the child, actually they call it as young person, 12 to 16, not a child anymore probably. The young person movement has to be supervised, and to the required degree. So when you say the required degree, now we have an age group here, 12, 16. So somebody who is around 15, 16 may not require as much attention, as much supervision, as much follow-up as a 12-year-old child. So, and also to some extent depends on the maturity of the child. In fact, in that age group, you may have a lot of variation in the levels of maturity of the children, of the young persons. So, all that has to be taken into account while following up the person all through the security processes, all the processes within the terminal. And one should be very sensitive to this one, that it should not cause any psychological strain for the person. And then before boarding the airport, before boarding of the other passengers, the formality of boarding these unaccompanied minors should be completed, and uh, the child has to be personally handed over to the crew member, and along with the documentation that is provided. And there should be record of the handling over process also. So, they usually call it as a UMNR wallet, which contains all the documents which are related to handing over the child at the airport, the follow-up of the processes, handing over the child to the crew, details about the destination, station where somebody is going to collect, etc. So all that have to be included in what is called as a UMNR wallet. And in many instances, actually, this may probably depend on the airline policy also, that they allocate specific seats for UMNR, that is unaccompanied minors, so that they can be easily accessed, and they can be easily their requirements can be easily addressed or readily addressed by the cabin crew. So these are some of the special considerations given to minors when they are not moving with their parents, or they are traveling alone. And the same kind of attention has to be followed all through till the person is handed over, the child or the person is handed over at the destination, and where the station staff first receives the child from the cabin crew along with all the details, and even this handing over has to be documented properly, and the staff member should follow through whatever is required at the as part of the immigration formalities at that uh, airport, and then hand over the child to the designated person who is going to receive. And there should be confirmation that the person who is receiving is the person who is intended by the parent or guardian who had handed over the child at the departing airport. So all these have to be properly followed and properly documented. That's also important. At each point, there should be a proper documentation of the handing over process or the other procedures the child is going through, and it should be always available for checking and monitoring. And the kind of importance of this is reflected by the guidelines that are provided by ICAO as well as IATA. IATA, for example, has a fairly large document. So I've just put these screenshots from that, which are like the the recommended best practices for minors. So IATA, actually it's recommended practices. So it's not like a rule or regulations. Anyway, it's not a regulatory body either, IATA. But then they have given several guidelines which are focused on the security of the safety and security of the kids. And it's very importantly pointed out in all these documents, actually ICAO as well as IATA, why it is very important to safeguard or provide proper attention to the transfer of kids, children. They have actually listed as, in fact, I put that in a subsequent slide. But I just would like to draw your attention to this particular sentence. Combating with a rising trend in trafficking of minors, whether unaccompanied or accompanied, is an extremely important area for this work, and there is now increased awareness at global level of how minors are being moved within and across international borders for the purpose of exploitation. As we know, there are several news that come in related to child trafficking, which is focused on various exploitation of the of kids, sometimes even the pretext of adoption, etc. So all these have to be, I mean, so which means that that group, particularly the 5 to 12-year group, where the kids are very vulnerable to what others say. Yeah, is sort of runs, that group actually runs high risk of being exploited, being trafficked, etc., in the pretext of various other things. So that's the main reason why each of these movements have to be handled, supervised and documented appropriately, so that there are no chances, actually. It's not minimizing chances, actually. It should be zero chances of exploitation or unauthorized movements or handing over of children. So these are actually, again, they have repeatedly emphasized the need for the enhanced safety and security of minors traveling across international borders. Actually, it's not just along international. IATA, being an international body, they have emphasized on that. But as we know, even in domestic terminals, from any place to any place, such kind of trafficking can take place illegally. So it should be properly attended to, the movement of kids. So they have given several definitions in order to sort of standardize the procedures. But even despite that, we can see still across documents some variations in the interpretation. For example, IATA says minor means a child under the age of 16. So any age below 16 is referred to as minor. Whereas in many other documents, you see that as, say, 12 to 16 as we have seen, as a young person. So young person, minor, this can be sort of interchangeably used, but the intention of categorizing is very obvious. is focused on the vulnerability of that group, age group, to be subjected to malpractices. And unaccompanied minor is defined as a child under the age of 16, under the age of 16. Yeah, traveling alone or traveling only in the company of another child. That's also important. So unaccompanied doesn't mean that the child is going alone. So if there are two children going together, in fact, in the literal sense, they are not unaccompanied. Each of them accompany each other, but then they are not accompanied by a person who is an adult. So a child traveling alone or traveling with another child within the same age group is referred to as an unaccompanied minor. Accompanying person means anyone age 16 or over. So let's take it as an adult who is traveling with a child who is less than 16, and need not be the parent or need not be the legal guardian. Actually, say many times people may send the kids with their friends, etc. Need not not the parents, not the guardians in the strictest sense, but then should be known to the child and it should be responsibly associated with the safety and security of the child during the travel, and also that responsibility has to be entrusted by the parent or the guardian. So that's the purpose of the various documents that are being the forms that are being filled in, the documents that are being kept. And the ICAO has specifically listed what could be some of the dangers faced by minors traveling alone. Human trafficking, getting robbed or cheated, for various this ones. If they are carrying money, it's probably easier to convince kids and to take away whatever valuables they are carrying. Chances of getting kidnapped, abuse, child abuse of various types, life-threatening situations, deprivation of food or water. That's another important this one. This may not be it may not be that a child is purposefully made to deprive food or water during the travel. If there is no proper attention or proper supervision or proper monitoring, the child may not be even knowing how to get food or water when they need it. So there is a chance that the child may have to go through prolonged hours without having food or water. Vulnerable to exploitation of various types. So these are some of the dangers which are highlighted, which can happen for minors traveling alone. So in view of this, the various organizations put a lot of emphasis on providing proper attention to the travel of minors. So part of it, a significant part of it, comes under the task of the airport staff, and that has to be properly monitored and supervised by the people who are in charge of the respective sections, like the airport operational management, etc., the management of airport operations, etc. So that's where the activities related to travel of minors fit into the role of the day-to-day functioning of the airport and the airport management. Before we move on to the next topic, I'll pause for a while if there is anything to be discussed or pointed out. Okay. If not, we'll continue. Another category of passengers which require focused attention, additional attention within the airport and also within the aircraft are physically challenged passengers or passengers with physical disabilities, which may be temporary or sort of permanent. say, for example, people who are very weak or undergoing treatment, etc., may be temporarily ill and probably will require specific attention. Now, uh, of course, in many situations, their mobility may be restricted. They probably will require wheelchairs, and that is the responsibility of airport terminal to avail wheelchairs for the easy access of passengers. Of course, there may be limitations sometimes. Of course, you in a practical situation, you probably won't encounter a scarcity of wheelchairs in airports. But then, wheelchairs with specific facilities required for a patient or a group of patients may not be always available everywhere. So, in that respect, there may be limitations in the availability of the required type of wheelchairs. So, in order to account for this, if a passenger is having his or her own wheelchair, he or she will be allowed to check in along with the wheelchair as a baggage. And the guideline is that that should be transported free of cost. So the airline cannot charge extra for the, that is, it can be transported along with the baggages, the checked-in baggages, but there should not be extra fare that should be provided for it. I'm not saying with the baggages, I'm saying like the baggages, but it should not be charged extra. So that's a requirement where the attention has to be provided by the check-in staff as well as the airline people. So that's a specific instance where additional or rather adequate attention has to be provided for people who require wheelchairs for travel. And even more important or more situation which requires even more attention would be the case of patients who require actually stretchers. So they need, they cannot move around and they cannot even move along with a wheelchair, and they need to be carried specifically on stretchers. So there should be facility for that within the airport as well as within the aircraft. And some of the points that are given as guidelines for it is that the stretcher should be available within the airport, but it should be the responsibility of the persons who require that to inform the airport that they will require the stretcher in 2 days in advance of the departure. This is to ensure that in case there is a shortage, the stretcher can be available, and it can be available on time for the passenger who arrives the airport. So it should be an adequate notice has to be given to the airport with relation to the requirement of the stretcher. And the regulation states that stretcher patients should be boarded before boarding of other passengers, and they should get down the last. So during the boarding process, they should be the first to be boarded into the plane and to be carried into the plane actually, and they should be carried out at the destination after all other passengers have been have disembarked from the from the aircraft. And there's also a guideline that stretcher should be positioned and secured with passengers head in the flight direction. So it's more like a crew's responsibility. So not much related to the functions within the airport. But then airport facility, or from the perspective of the airport, the important aspect is that there should be availability when it is informed, and there should be facilitation for moving of the stretchers within the airport whenever required. Okay, and another related area where specific services attention is required is those with related to the movement of what we call as a very important persons and very important persons, VVIPs and VIPs. Again, a very sensitive area, sensitive task actually. We'll see why it is so sensitive, but then these are areas which are also clubbed to safety, personal safety and security, particularly when a VVIP or a VIP is a person in power. So we know that, say, the cabinet ministers, well, of course, our prime minister, chief minister, etc., should be accorded special treatment within the airports because their visibility to the public is more, and there are chances that they may be exposed to personal attacks or personal inconvenience, at least when people crowd around, etc. So it's fair that there should be special services, special attention provided to the movement of VVIPs and VIPs, and that's the reason why Airport Authority of India has provided a list of dignitaries that can be which can be entitled the VIP launch, access to the VIP launch, and they should be given proper attention so that they are not exposed to the common crowd within the airport. And actually, this is a very important aspect of the overall functioning, and it requires attention at the senior management level within the airport. Now, when we talk about minors, disabled passengers, etc., there should be processes which are laid out and which are monitored by the management. But on a day-to-day basis, probably the management doesn't have to get into the process of checking or the processes that go with a minor and accompanied minor, etc., as long as there are adequate designated staff who are in charge of it. So the responsibility of the management is to ensure that there is adequate staff and the staff is trained and the process is getting monitored. As opposed to that, in VVIP movements in particular, the terminal manager or the airport operational manager needs to be directly involved in that. The manager, he or she should have an information about a VVIP's arrival, which aircraft or what is the which airline he or she is traveling through, what are going to be the connections, what are the required check-ins, who are accompanying him or her, and what are the additional facilities he or she may require at the airport, etc. And the terminal manager, the senior manager, should brief his or her team about all the requirements, the schedules, the specific focus, etc., in order to make sure that travel of the VVIP is smooth and without any incidents. This is important from the perspective of safety, security, and also because of the overall sensitivity of this issue. Sensitivity because that is also very highly related to the protocol, the stature that is assigned to a person because of his or her power and position. Okay, so those are things that we should accept as a requirement, and the management has to give appropriate attention to it. So this means that quite often the airport manager himself or herself will have to work in close coordination with the personal staff of the VVIP. For example, if a cabinet minister is traveling, the airport manager should talk to his or her secretary and should get all the details regarding the travel and get updated about his movement, his or her movements, and then the specific requirements, etc., and should brief the airport team about whatever is required. And from the time of arrival of the person at the airport, should provide all the required additional security movement and facilitation of the processes with focus on that particular person. So it's a personal attention required, and it's important from the consideration of safety, security, and protocol. Now, is this an undisputed area? Probably not. So if you say the attention required for minors, everybody will agree that yes, no doubt there should be provided adequate security, safety, etc. But when it comes to VIPs or VVIPs, there can be questions actually. Why and how much? More than why, how much? How much attention has to be provided? So there are quite often in public discussions, disputes, etc. Sometimes which goes to the court also, saying that inadequate attention is being given. Not inadequate, inappropriate or unnecessary attention is being inappropriate or unnecessary attention is being given to the VIPs, so that the movement of other passengers are getting disrupted or getting delayed, etc. So, for example, sometimes cases go to the court saying that an aircraft had to wait for a minister to arrive, etc., which is unfair actually. In fact, I don't think it is there in any rules of rules or regulations that any airline has to keep waiting for a VVIP. So such things can be debated, will be questioned, and in one such instance, the aviation minister had to come into public and say that no, we don't have that kind of an VIP culture in airports at all. So when this minister, who is that, Jayant Sinha, aviation, former actually, not now. So when he states that there is no VIP culture in airports, what he tries to say is that there is no inappropriate attention given for waiting for the passenger, waiting for the VIP, etc. It's not his intention to say that there is no special processes for or facilities for VIPs. Actually, that it's taken for granted. Everybody knows that VIPs or cabinet ministers, etc., accord special attention in the airport. But what he means here by VIP culture is going beyond what is written in the manual, the operational manual. So quite often these things can be questioned, and there can be public debates about what should be, say, for example, how much or who all should be exempted from security checks, and is it going to be exempting a person from security check? Is it actually compromising the safety of others? So this news item or article, as you can see here, talks about the dangers of India's VIP culture. Actually, they are using the same word which the minister denied exists in India. But then the other discusses about exemption from security checks may compromise safety of others. So it's a questionable. So what I'm saying is that the attention that is provided to the VIPs, the categorization of VIPs, deciding who belongs to every VIP group and what kind of attention he or she requires. These are probably will not be, these are not undisputed, and probably they will always be under such debates. And I don't think it is unique to India. Anywhere such debates can happen, such questions can be raised. So one should be aware of it. So unlike the case of minors, where probably nobody will dispute the additional attention that you provide to the minors. So it may not be always so in the case of VIPs. Another article from India Today for CIS of VVIP rage. Yeah, now there's another headache. VVIP rage, the rage, the anger of VVIPs. This is all. So this is why initially when I said it's a sensitive issue, it's partly because of the irritability or the irritation that the VIPs get when they are put through processes which they believe they should not go through. That's also important. Now, the rage stems from the fact that very basically everybody considers themselves as a VIP. When you go to an airport, goes through the processes, you would expect that everybody should treat you as VIP. I would expect that everybody should treat me as a VIP. but obviously nobody will do those. So, but then in the case of people who are actually designated as VIPs or VVIPs, the esteem or the considerations that they expect for themselves may be even higher. So when they believe that they are put through, say, like security checks or related activities, which they believe they should not be, that can lead to situations like this. For example, like, this article says that in Delhi airport, it's a major headache for the CIS of personnel. Every now and then a VVIP throws a tantrum saying that I'm not supposed to, I don't have to go through this, etc. So all these make it a very sensitive issue, and you probably as a manager, as an operational manager at the airport, cannot throw a blind eye against this. It may be the rage of a person, but he or she may have a reason too for that, and particularly if there is a violation of protocol or things which are going against some of the written guidelines or regulations. So what I'm trying to highlight by listing all these articles or discussing them is that the VIP security, VIP treatment at airport may not be an undebated or may not be an undisputed area. And when you have situations like this is where a lot of managerial attention will be required. In areas like minors, etc., as long as you have trained and adequately trained staff and you have the processes in place, such public debates or questioning of them are very unlikely to rise. Whereas these kind of things, as we just see in this article, in Delhi airport, actually it's like a, a daily experience that there are VIPs or VVIPs who are getting irritated by the kind of treatment given to them by the security personnel. So for an airport manager, this is all part of life, and he or she has to be aware of such situations and should be knowledgeable and diplomatic enough to work around them. I guess I'll stop here. Any questions? Some of these are open issues, and when we talk about process, procedure, etc., what is a process today, what's a process procedure today may not remain the same for the next day, etc. So these are all open. Actually, you may have changes from time to time, and there should be changes actually. So this all, and in fact, anything that is related to management are more susceptible for changes because they are a lot dependent on the perceptions and practices. So that's one thing which we as engineers should be aware, because many of the engineering principles are not so vulnerable to change. First law of thermodynamics, second law of thermodynamics, Newton's law, etc., are there for centuries, and we still have not seen any violations for them. That doesn't apply the same way for like practices related to or the laws related to VVIPs or VIPs in airports. So that is why that's why it's even more important to be up to date about what's a trend or what is guidelines and what are the regulations related to those. Okay, any questions, comments? So we'll stop here. I won't be this afternoon. I will not be available. I won't be taking the class. Tomorrow, I don't know. Actually, the calendar that I have shows it as holiday. Do you have any idea? Tomorrow is working day or holiday? Anyway, I'm on leave. So if it's a working day, I will.
Yesterday, Balaji sir told it won't be a working day.
It's not a working day. Okay, good. So, yeah, so we'll meet on Monday. So. Okay, so if there's nothing else to discuss now, we'll stop here. And today's 11. Yeah, day after tomorrow is date, right? 13th is 50%, right? 13th is gate exam, right?
Yes, sir.
So best of luck to all of you who are writing gate and preparing seriously for that. Best wishes. With that,
Thank
I
you.
stop.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you.